Hello and welcome to the Freaks of Nature podcast. I'm a Triffid.
And I'm a Clementine.
Welcome to our first podcast episode coming to you from our favorite coffee shop. We figured today we're going to focus on some stories that tell you a little bit about ourselves, mostly relating to the kinds of experiences we've had with nature.
Mostly mine is just screaming.
Just examples of you screaming at things.
I'm not going to be screaming on this podcast. We are in a coffee shop. I feel that would raise some eyebrows.
Potentially, yes. Our censorship animal for this episode is the black-capped chickadee.
Oh.
You'll be hearing that noise anytime that we have especially foul language just to make it a little bit more fun. Like that.
Yeah, well now I'm just gonna swear just because it's cute. So you're a Triffid.
Mm-hmm.
What the f***'s a Triffid?
Okay, so a Triffid is a made-up plant. It is from a book called Night of the Triffids. It's a sci-fi novel. It was written, I believe, in the 1950s. The Triffid was this fictional plant that sort of had sentience, so it was able to get up and walk. And it also grew very large and had venom and shot out darts at people. It was a very odd-looking flower, not especially pretty.
Have you ever seen Little Shop of Horrors?
Yes.
Was it like that?
Kinda, except less of a mouth that mows down on you. It's
okay.
More like...
Right, more like an actual flower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, more like a lily was what it looked like.
Oh, it's so cute. And then it murders you.
It murders you.
Oh, well, that's something to keep in mind.
That's definitely a freak of nature if ever I heard of one. And you're a Clementine.
I am. A Clementine is like an orange.
Yeah.
Except that is not why I have that name.
Because it was one of your characters?
It's one of my favorite role-playing characters. She's an awesome, drunken paladin who roams around the countryside, saving lives and causing trouble.
I do appreciate Clementine. She's quite fantastic.
Yep.
And also, I mean, a Clementine is kind of a freak of nature too, because it's like a hybrid.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a genetically modified plant.
Well, perfect.
There you go.
It doesn't have sentience, but neither did my paladin, so
No.
That's okay.
And I think I'd rather spend time with a Clementine than with the Triffid, to be honest. That's just me. So I am a naturalist. I've studied biology. I've always been really, really interested in nature. And of course, as a naturalist slash interpreter slash animator, if you're French, my interest not only is in nature, but in being able to teach other people about it. But that's what I do in my day job, and as much as I love doing it, this is a really great opportunity for me to not do it entirely seriously. So I like this outlet, and especially when I get to talk to you.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And we're both pretty freaking hilarious.
Well, you know, the two of us, we've been doing lots of stuff together for years now.
Mm-hmm. Including theater. We've done theater together.
Mm-hmm.
We've more recently been doing improv together.
Mm-hmm. Hence the hilarious comment. We also play video games together, play role-playing games together. I don't know, just all the fun stuff. I am not a biologist or an interpreter or any of those other super cool things. My interest in this podcast is purely from like the layman perspective. I appreciate nature. I appreciate creatures and plants and all that, you know, super fun green alive stuff. It's great. And rocks are cool too, but I don't really know very much about them.
You're the enthusiastic non-expert.
Basically, yes. More so, I'm like, I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but things of the sort of pop culture genre are more my thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you want to talk to me about the flora and fauna in Skyrim, I am all over that. But in the real world, I don't know.
So today we're telling stories of our encounters with nature. You had a really fun...
Cue screaming? Do we have a scream file? Like, can we just play one? I had a really interesting experience when I was younger. I've often spent a lot of time in the bush, the forest, whatever. So I've had plenty of opportunities to very irresponsibly interact with wildlife. I'm not dead and I have all my bits, so that's good. One day, though, I was walking down the road out in the middle of nowhere, and I guess my friend and I had traveled a little too close to like a nest. Do skunks have nests? Is that a thing?
They have dens?
Dens,
burrows?
okay. Yeah,
dens and burrows?
They're a little skunk house. Yeah. And I guess they must have had babies, I suppose, because this larger skunk, who I can only assume was the mother skunk, came barreling out, hissing and spitting and teeth bared, and just started chasing us for a very long way. I was very frightened. It never caught us, but dear Lord, don't f with skunks. Like, ever. I mean, I guess they're like, are they part of the badger family? Or
They are, yes.
Yeah, you can, I totally believe that. I don't know, if you ever get the chance and you don't want to sleep again, look up, on YouTube or something, the sound of a skunk angry. It's terrifying. It will haunt your dreams.
Which is fantastic just because, well, you think of a skunk and you think, oh God, you better not be aiming your butt at me. I don't want to smell like ass for the rest of the night. But, you don't think of them as intimidating creatures beyond that, right?
No.
But apparently, that was terrifying.
And, like, as far as I recall, we hadn't done anything. Like, it came from, like, off the side of the road, and we were on the road. But I swear we probably ran for at least 1 kilometer chasing us.
Wow. That's a long ways. That's a lot of territory for that skunk to care about. That's
it was
impressive.
pretty mad. It's too bad because baby skunks are so cute.
Yeah. They really are. They're so fluffy and tiny, but they probably still will make you smell like ass. Actually, my first story is along a similar vein, one of my favorite stories from being an interpreter. In terms of things that you would not expect to be terrifying, but then suddenly are. We were traveling through the bush on one of the trails. Not a very well-maintained trail, so it was very grassy. We were going to go check it out just to see how it was. While we were walking, this was fairly early on, so mating to egg laying to breeding to hatching season, when animals are fairly active as couples and as parents. So we're walking through the bush, and there's this grouse. Probably a spruce grouse, possibly a ruffed grouse, not sure which one.
So like a partridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, most people call them partridges. Technically, we don't have partridges, but everybody calls them a partridge,
Right.
Yeah. And this grouse, we were just walking up to it. It's like, okay, fine, just get out of our way. You're just a tiny chicken. Like, who cares? Go shoo. And it starts doing a bit of a broken wing dance. Like oh, you look really intimidating. I'm gonna scare you away from my babies by making you think I'm extra delicious and that they're not. That's one of their defense strategies, is in order to save their babies, they'll be selfless like that and make themselves look extra appetizing as parents. And so we're like, oh, that's cool. But we didn't decide at that point to, leave it alone, even though we probably should have. When it realized that wasn't working, it totally switched tactics. It did not do that for very long. Eventually, it just turned to us, flared itself entirely out like tail feathers, and just puffed itself up really big, mouth wide open, just charges us. Oh, God. And we're both like, holy shit. Like, we're like tripping over rocks and like tripping over our own selves, trying to back off so fast. Like, we're running backwards, just freaking out. And I could have punted it. Like, there's no denying that it was not an issue.
It's still scary.
It's just so terrifying to see yourself suddenly accosted by this demon bird.
Did it also scream Hadouken?
It didn't make any noise either. That was the extra funny part. It was just like, ah. It just had this mouth open like, rah. We had such a good laugh after that, because the interpreter I was with was like a very well-built, tall young man that, definitely looks like he could handle himself in the bush, and he was equally freaking out about this grouse. Made me feel a lot better. I think we're going to take a bit of a break here and take a moment for one of our weekly segments.
Woo! That means it's my turn.
Yep.
So, it's time now for Clementine's 3 totally true facts about going for nature walks.
Uh-huh. Okay.
They're true.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, don't...
Are they for real?
Yep.
For realsies?
Okay. Like, it's nature. You wouldn't understand. Okay, so, fact number 1. When walking through any area that contains flowers, always bring a small container of honey. Bees are very territorial, and they will make you pay the honey tax or they'll break your legs.
No. That is false.
What? No.
That is a false statement.
I don't think so.
Okay. So, apart from the fact that I personally have never had my kneecaps busted by a swarm of angry bees.
Do you always bring honey?
No.
In your tea?
Well, I guess, to be fair, the odds are very good of that.
Well, there you go.
First of all, like, you're full of shit. Second of all...
That's really mean.
Second of all, as much as that may seem logical, that just the fact that bees eat honey, it's technically sometimes true, but it turns out that apparently, from the sounds of the sources that I've read in the past when researching honeybees and bumblebees, you're actually not supposed to feed honey to a bee. Like, they eat nectar, and they eat pollen.
Well, isn't honey basically bee poop?
Honey's basically concentrated nectar. It's funny because apparently the honey itself, the concentrated nectar that they create, it's more like bee spit. See, I'm telling you the truth. It's not bee poop. It's bee spit. Let's be accurate.
Not that much better.
But apparently, it's like it's kind of like breast milk in the sense that like larvae are supposed to eat honey. But apparently if you feed it all the time to adult bees, it gets weird. But they should be eating other things like pollen.
Well, I mean, it's like if you feed a baby Enfalac, an adult couldn't just eat that. They would get sick. So, bring honey or all their babies will die. And then they'll break your legs.
Okay, what's your second fact?
Okay, fact number 2. Want to travel safely past bears? The best way is to be unconscious.
Oh boy.
Sleepwalking will work. Also, traveling with friends who are willing to ring bells and yell, "Bring out your dead," is a good plan. Bears find anything dead especially distasteful.
Okay.
True facts.
You know what? Hanging out with friends who ring bells and say, "Bring out your dead," would be effective.
Yeah.
The part that is not true is that they find unconscious things or dead things distasteful. And actually I as an interpreter have to remind people of this, the fact that the advice on how to avoid trouble with bears has been updated. In the past couple of years, you're not even supposed to play dead, let alone, try and play it up by smelling terrible. And I feel like if you were sleepwalking, you would probably be less vigilant than you need to be, but
how would you know?
Exactly. Exactly.
So I guess unfortunately, if you happen to sleepwalk near a bear, best of luck.
Yeah, exactly, because it turns out you're not supposed to play dead because they might just get curious about you and bat you around a little, which can get real dangerous with something that has large claws. So what you're actually supposed to do is just stand your ground, do the best you can to walk away from it and give it some space. The talking part is good. The ringing bells is good because they don't like people. What they do find distasteful is our insistence on making noise. So that'll be more effective. But if you see a bear and you find yourself in close contact with a bear, you have to stand your ground, but back away.
Right, because you're not challenging it.
Exactly. You don't want to challenge it by just standing there forever. You do want to give it some space, but you don't want to just drop there. It would prefer to know that you're doing something to actually walk away from it and give it some space,
right.
Depending on the scenario. You can find more instructions on how to avoid bears on various very helpful websites, but that's the gist of it. It depends on the nature of the bear.
So, bells and Monty Python skits is a go.
That part actually is a go.
All right, good. Okay, so still totally true.
No.
Fact number 3. Going for long walks through forested areas can be tedious. Fortunately, the chickadee, which in Latin is Soundtracus epicus, has evolved to fulfill a singular purpose. Their bird songs are timed to coincide with the epic things that you say or do. So bear this in mind and help validate their existence.
Okay. That's adorable. I wish it was true, because I need a soundtrack to my life, especially when I'm out in nature. That is not the Latin name of the black-capped chickadee.
What? It totally is. I looked it up on my phone.
The phone upon which you wrote these facts?
Maybe.
Yeah, no.
no.
That's
I put
not
serious
it.
effort into these.
I appreciate the effort that you put into making up these facts. I really do. No, they're most likely to be making that noise when they're grumpy that you're there in the first place.
Oh, so basically they're telling you to f off.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, that makes our censorship animal of the day fairly appropriate.
Yes, actually, true that. When thee making that chickadee, that noise is actually their alarm call.
Okay.
That's actually, even though it sounds really nice, it's not the call that they use to be pretty and attract mates. That one's actually the one to be like, hey, so there's a thing coming. It looks like it might want to eat you. So anyone in the area, just FYI, keep a lookout. And the number of DDDs at the end is actually indicative of either the immediacy or the greatness of the threat.
Right, so the more of them there are, the more dangerous the situation.
Yeah, which I thought was actually really cool. So if it seems to be making a lot of noise and have a really long call around you, maybe you should be kind of impressed. Because, I mean, you know, you're intimidating.
I'm intimidating as to chickadees. Like, that's not really something I'm proud
You're
of.
a tiny ball of fluff. You barely weigh a gram.
They're a gram of fury.
It's true. Like, I mean, they are a tiny ball of fluff, but I would not want one to be mad because somehow within that tiny little body, they have a fair amount of strength in those little talons. You know, you have one on your hand and it's eating out of your hand, and you feel those claws digging into your skin. It's like, oh man, okay, let's not play with my face. Please no.
So, that has been Totally True Facts with me, Clementine.
Thanks, Clementine.
You're welcome.
I appreciate
You
your
don't
input.
look appreciative.
Do you have a favorite animal you want to talk about?
Ooh, a favorite animal. GLaDOS. Nope. That's not an animal.
Apparently it's your spirit animal.
Yeah, it is definitely my spirit animal.
Yes.
Favorite animal. The unicorn?
I have bad news.
Don't. No. You ruined Christmas. So no.
I'm sorry, but reindeer can't fly.
Reindeer can fly. You just have to believe and sprinkle them with like fairy dust or something.
I mean, as far as I know, since I've never seen a fairy or tried its dust, I'll never know.
My favorite animal. God, all my favorite animals are not real. Sheep. I really like sheep. And of course, everyone likes kitties and puppies and... But no, seriously, sheep. Don't touch them because they're gross. But they're adorable.
My favorite animal is probably the resplendent quetzal.
That sounds fairly epic.
I think that is very appropriate as a favorite animal.
Is it a bird?
It is a bird that lives in Central America. It is a beautiful emerald green with a ruby red chest. And the males have a really nice fluffy mohawk as well as incredibly long green tail feathers.
Nice.
Yeah, they're very, very pretty. And I technically saw one.
Woo! Technically.
Yeah. When I went on an expedition to Honduras as a volunteer, I was very, very excited because I realized that this bird that had been my favorite bird for years and years and years because I saw it in a bird encyclopedia when I was a kid actually lived in the area that I was going to be traveling in.
Sweet.
I was so excited. And I think it was the first or second day I saw the outline of one flying over the tree line. And it was a male because it had a really long tail.
Yeah.
And I was so excited. I'm like, oh my god, look at that. And everyone was like, yeah, that's cool. I mean, you know, we see them all the time here. I'm like, like, I need to see one up close. I need to see a really good shot. I'm so excited that I'm going to see one because apparently people see them all the time. Did not see another one the entire trip.
Oh.
Other people would go to the bathroom and when they're sitting on the can, there'd be one like right, like feet away from them.
Oh.
And it wasn't me. And it was my favorite bird.
That's terrible.
But at least I did technically get to see one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was exciting.
My favorite bird, that one's easy. It's the crow. The just the common crow, which in Latin is Soundtracus epicus. It's not.
It's
That's
Corbidae
the chickadee.
something.
But yeah, I love crows. I think they're beautiful. They're very, very smart, very mischievous, very pretty.
Nice.
I love them.
Mm-hmm. This is all the time that we have for this week, but thank you very much for listening in. We have social media, so you can find us at Freaks of Nature on Facebook.
On YouTube.
And you can find us at FON Podcast on Twitter. So if you want to ask us any questions about what we talked about today, or you want to suggest questions for us to talk about in a future podcast, things that you've always wondered about animals, things that you want to hear more about in general, or if you have any tips about the things that we talked about that would be interesting things to contribute, don't hesitate to comment on any of those forums.
Also, I'm always looking for ideas for my fun facts. Wait, they're not fun, they're true. True facts.
Yeah, so totally true. Thanks again for joining us, everybody.
We'll see you next time.